In the heart of Southern California's desert, a vast blue lake shimmers, unexpected, unnatural, and entirely accidental. This is the Salton Sea, California's largest lake, born not from nature, but from a colossal engineering mistake in 1905. Efforts to irrigate the Imperial Valley with Colorado River water went awry when heavy rains and snowmelt overwhelmed the canals. The river burst through, flooding the Salton Sink for nearly 2 years, creating a massive inland sea where there was once only desert. By the time the breach was sealed in 1907, a 45-mile-long, 15-mile-wide lake had formed. Agricultural runoff from nearby farms kept the lake full, balancing the desert's intense evaporation. Nutrient-rich water attracted birds and wildlife, transforming the Accidental Sea into a thriving oasis. Migratory birds flocked here, and the Salton Sea quickly became a vital stopover on the Pacific Flyway. What began as a disaster became an unexpected sanctuary, teeming with life in the middle of the desert. The Salton Sea's origins are a powerful reminder of how human ambition and nature's unpredictability can reshape the land. This oasis, however, was always living on borrowed time. Its fate would soon be shaped by the very forces that created it. In the 1950s and 60s, the Salton Sea became the California Riviera, a desert paradise for tourists and celebrities. Resort towns sprang up, marinas buzzed with boats, and families flocked to the beaches for sun, water skiing, and fishing. The state stocked the lake with saltwater fish, and anglers reeled in record catches. At its peak, the Salton Sea drew more visitors than Yosemite, its shores alive with music, laughter, and promise. But the sea was more than a playground. It was a crucial habitat for millions of migratory birds. The wetlands and fish-rich waters made it one of North America's most important bird sanctuaries. Communities flourished, property values soared, and the future seemed bright. Yet beneath the surface, the seeds of decline were already sown. The same agricultural runoff that sustained the sea was slowly poisoning it. The Salton Sea's golden age was dazzling, but fragile. No one imagined how quickly paradise could unravel. The Salton Sea is a terminal lake. Water flows in, but only leaves through evaporation, leaving salts and chemicals behind. Decades of agricultural runoff increased salinity and introduced fertilizers and pesticides, slowly poisoning the water. By the 1970s and 80s, the sea grew saltier than the Pacific, and fish began to die off in massive numbers. Algae blooms, fueled by excess nutrients, created oxygen-depleted dead zones, littering the shores with millions of dead fish. Bird populations suffered catastrophic die-offs from disease and tainted food, shattering the once thriving ecosystem. The beaches, once sandy, became graveyards of fish bones. Resort towns emptied, businesses shuttered, and the air filled with the stench of decay. The Salton Sea's promise of prosperity had turned to ruin. What was once a sanctuary became a toxic trap for wildlife. The collapse was swift and devastating, a stark warning of what happens when nature's balance is ignored. The California Riviera faded into memory, replaced by a haunting landscape of loss. The Salton Sea now stood as a symbol of environmental catastrophe. Its decline was not just ecological, but deeply human. The consequences would soon reach far beyond its shores. As the Salton Sea shrinks, it exposes toxic lakebed dust, laden with decades of agricultural chemicals and salts. Desert winds whip this dust into the air, creating hazardous storms that blanket nearby communities. Low-income, largely Latino farm worker families in towns like Mecca and Salton City are hit hardest. Asthma rates in the Imperial Valley are among the highest in California, with children especially vulnerable. The dust crisis is a daily threat, trapping families in a cycle of poor health and poverty. Water once destined for the Salton Sea is now diverted to distant cities, deepening the injustice. The people left behind bear the burden of decisions made far away. The Salton Sea's decline is not just an environmental disaster, it's a human rights crisis. The fight for clean air and justice here is urgent and ongoing. Amid crisis, California is finally taking action. The Species Conservation Habitat Project is building new wetlands at the sea's southern end, aiming to restore bird habitat and cover toxic dust. Carefully managed ponds and channels will support wildlife and help protect nearby communities, yet these efforts only address a fraction of the problem. The sea continues to shrink and dust remains a threat. Critics say more water is needed for real recovery. Still, these projects mark a turning point. After decades of neglect, there's new commitment to the Salton Sea's future. The wetlands offer hope, but the challenge is immense. The story is far from over, but the first steps toward healing have begun. The Salton Sea's story is a cautionary tale about the unintended consequences of reshaping nature. What began as an accident became a vibrant ecosystem, then a disaster, as human demands outpaced nature's limits. The sea's decline exposes deep social and environmental injustices, with the most vulnerable paying the highest price. Yet, even now, life persists. Endangered pupfish survive, and migratory birds still visit. The Salton Sea reminds us that environmental policy is social policy. Our choices about water and land have lasting impacts. The future of the Salton Sea, and places like it, depends on whether we learn from the past and act with responsibility. Its fate is a mirror for our own, challenging us to build a more just and sustainable world.